Hey y'all, Christina here. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new, I'm currently 34 weeks pregnant, just rounding out my 34th week. And this is a 30 to 34 week update because you know what? I'm pregnant, I've been tired. I haven't been keeping up, but here I am to give you the update. So we are just finishing the 34th week of the pregnancy, and I am just about 5 weeks out from the due date, and I am just really feeling the home stretch. Tomorrow I start my last week of work before I go on maternity leave. I did plan to take the last month of my pregnancy off just so I could be pregnant, so I can just be in this final stage, prepare for the next phase, not have to have that whole other aspect of work. Just decided I could take the work off. And luckily where I live in Canada, they have a pretty good maternity leave system set up, financial support. So I'm fortunate enough to be able to do that. So I'm really excited about taking off. I'm gonna have almost 5 weeks off. Well, I guess 4 weeks off before the baby's due. I've never not worked since I was 14, 15 years old. I think the longest stint I went without working was 2 months, and that was over 10 years ago. And I'm really excited. I get a year off for maternity leave, which is pretty remarkable. And it's gonna be a whole new experience for me. Obviously, I'm gonna have this little baby to take care of, and I feel very fortunate and grateful to have the space and the financial support to be able to do that, to be able to give myself fully and absolutely to this little baby that's going to be 100% dependent on me and my partner. And I can't imagine what it would be like. You know, I grew up in the States, and where I'm from, you know, they get 6 weeks unpaid time off, and I can't imagine what that would be like. I can't imagine that feeling of needing to work up into the due date, you know, like the physical strain and the physical effort required in pregnancy. The fact that women aren't able to take as much time off as they need is pretty tragic and devastating. And to only get 6 weeks off and not have that financial support is also very devastating. And I think it really exposes the atrocity of our current economic system. The fact that we don't, around the world, support parents and mothers to be able to unconditionally be with their child who needs them. And it's like fostering that future, like fostering our future as a species. Women aren't given that unconditional space and time and money to be able to do that. And I feel very fortunate to be in the situation I'm in and to be in the country I'm in. And it just really exposes how, excuse my French, but fucked up our world system is, that not every mother gets that opportunity, you know. I think it goes even further and exposes the corruptness of our economic system, but that's for other videos and past videos. You can look into my channel, things I've made in the past about an equal money system and my support for basic income and all that. But yeah, feeling very grateful walking into my last week of work and knowing that I have a year to be with my child, to birth my child, to give myself fully to my child without financial strain or pressure or worry. Just knowing that that point's taken care of, that's how it should be. That's how it should be. And I'm also fortunate because I had a job that provided me the right kind of income where I'm gonna get enough to support me where it's not gonna be a financial strain or burden, you know. The thing about the Canadian system is that it depends on your income as well. You get what you make. And so yeah, there's just a lot of things. Hopefully I can talk more about it going forward in videos to come, about the inequality and the consequences of allowing such a system to exist where we don't support mothers fully and 100%. So anyways, I am one of the fortunate ones, I know that, and I'm looking to take and make the most of this opportunity that I have before me, and just feeling very grateful, full of gratitude to be in the situation and position I'm in. Other than that, what's been going on the last 4 weeks? So I told you in the last vlog, I was diagnosed with gestational diabetes. And for the last 4 weeks, I've been seeing a dietitian. So the first week I met with a dietitian. We basically tested my blood in the morning when I first wake up, and then before and after every meal to gauge kind of where my numbers were at. When I took the gestational diabetes diagnosis test initially, the problem numbers that were high, which gave me the diagnosis, were my morning fasting numbers. So when you wake up first thing in the morning, you've been fasting for 8 to 10 hours, sometimes more or less, but that first number when you wake up before you do anything else, and then also 1 hour after I eat. Those were the numbers that were high in my gestational diabetes diagnosis test. So we were really kind of keeping an eye on those numbers in the week that I was testing my blood 6 times a day, 7 times a day. After a week, we realized that I was able to stabilize all my blood sugars before and after every meal just by ensuring what I was eating was essentially like lower carb, high protein, high fats, a little bit lower carb, but not no carb. Like that's the thing. I went into it thinking it would be like no carbs, no sugars, no nothing. But you're allotted, 15 to 30 grams of carbs at snacks and 30 to 45 grams of carbs at dinner. And when you actually start measuring and looking at the foods you're eating, it is a good amount of carbs still. So it's not like you're completely depleted or depriving yourself of carbohydrates. But so that first week we found that I was able to stabilize my blood sugar throughout the day, before and after every meal, except for my morning blood sugar. That fasting number never really dropped down. There was 2 days where it dropped down. One time I thought it was because I decided not to have an evening snack, which I generally do, and they do suggest that you have 2 to 3 snacks throughout the day, and one of them is a bedtime snack. One day I thought, let me try not having a bedtime snack and see if that affects my morning number, and it did. It lowered it. It was lower. It was below the target we wanted. It was like, that's it. That's the secret to this whole, I cracked the code. I'm gonna have low morning blood sugars. Next night I did it again and it was high. It didn't repeat. So it wasn't really the snack, or it wasn't the lack of snack, or the having a longer fasting period. So I did the week, and the morning fasting numbers we couldn't get down. We couldn't get stable. They kept going over the target number. So I was referred to an endocrinologist. I think that's the word. Basically someone who specializes or who can prescribe me insulin. That's essentially what it was. Dietitian, when I followed up with her a week later, she said she was going to refer me to this doctor, and chances are he would prescribe insulin because despite my diet and despite my activity level, we weren't able to get that morning fasting number down. So I spoke to this doctor and he did prescribe insulin for me, just a shot of 24-hour active insulin that I would shoot in my stomach every night before bed. So I've been taking that for about a week now. The first few days of, they start you off with a very low dose of insulin. 3 units is what they prescribed for me initially to start. And then based on that, how the numbers are, you might have to go up incrementally just to find the right unit. The first few days did the trick. I would wake up after doing my insulin shot in the night before and my numbers would be below the target, and they weren't too low. They were just where they needed to be, and it was a great relief to know that, okay, this is gonna work, this is gonna be helpful. And so we did that for a few days, and then the last 4 days, my numbers have started to spike again in the morning. So I've been having to, the last 2 nights, up my unit. So I went from 3 to 4, and that didn't change my morning fasting number. It was still high. I did 5 units last night, and this morning my numbers again were too high. So tonight I'll be trying 6 units. So apparently that's a common thing, that the number can initially stabilize once you're on insulin, and then it can start to jump again. So I'm basically testing out, finding the right dosage of insulin that's gonna work. So yeah, that's the process I've been on for the last 4 weeks, is just testing the blood. And I'm still testing the blood as I'm taking this insulin. It's not just like a cure-all and I'm done tracking the numbers. I still test my blood first thing in the morning and then before I eat, and then 1 meal a day, whether breakfast, lunch, or dinner. I kind of, every day it's either breakfast, lunch, or dinner I'll test before and after. And the numbers are still mostly stable throughout the day. Once in a while I'll have a high number, like today before I had lunch I tested my blood and my sugar was high, and that was probably due to the fact that I had a banana with my snack. I had banana and peanut butter a couple hours before, and I generally eat half a banana sometimes with a snack or a meal, and I've never had high blood sugar, but I had a whole banana, and so I'm thinking that's probably why the number was a bit high. But yeah, so it's been an interesting process just getting to know and understanding and learning about my body and how it's functioning, and how the pancreas is producing insulin, and how the liver produces blood sugars, and you know, how pregnancy, how the placenta can inhibit how my body processes sugars, and just like learning what foods do what to my body. I definitely resisted the idea of having gestational diabetes and having to take insulin, and I didn't want to do any of that, but here I am. And yeah, it is what it is, and I'm managing, and it's fine, and it's going well. And you know, obviously we want the baby to be as healthy as possible, and yeah, so we'll see how it goes. I think the biggest concern for me was that if I were to have to take insulin or medication, I wouldn't get the opportunity to have a home birth, which is what I'm planning on doing. For some reason, I have this idea that if I have gestational diabetes, if I have insulin, I have to be at the hospital, I have to be monitored, I have to have intervention, I have to, like, you know, take this route of birth that I didn't really want. And I don't know that, so you know, those are questions that I have for my midwife that I'll bring up in my next appointment, which should be this next week. But yeah, I think that was the biggest thing that I resisted the most. The idea of having gestational diabetes or having to take medication or insulin was that I wouldn't be able to have a home birth. But you know, obviously I'm learning that it's not necessarily about what I want, it's about what's going to be best for the baby and the best for me, to make sure that we're all safe, and I'll do whatever is needed to be done to ensure that that happens. Obviously I have an ideal, and I have a preference, and I have a way I would like this to go, but I'm absolutely open and flexible to making sure that he's brought into this world as safe as possible. So that's where I'm at. So it's been an interesting process. With the foods, I've had some boredom. I've had some reactions of like tired of like having certain foods, feeling like I'm kind of limited in my options, and trying to get creative, but it's like a whole other thing you have to manage. You know, it's like I have to test my blood all day, and I have to make sure I have insulin at night, and now I have to like plan out my foods and plan out my snacks, and like make sure the time increment in between when I'm eating is sufficient. And it's just a lot. It's a lot to manage. And then with work, I've been training my replacement for the last 4 weeks, so it's been so busy, and which is good because the weeks have flown by, and now here we are at the last week, which I'm so excited about. But yeah, it's been a lot. It's been kind of tiring. I'm pretty tired as I sit here, and yeah. But we're getting close, and I'm getting very excited to meet this guy. And what else? Oh, heartburn has made an appearance out of nowhere. I would get it periodically in my second trimester, and in the last couple months, I would say but it was so sporadic, it was so rare that I would get it. And often I would get it if I extended the time between when I would eat. That is kind of when it would flare up. Now it's like completely random. It could be before I eat, after I eat, while I'm eating. But I have found a cure for my heartburn experience, which is diet ginger ale. So I'm having ginger ale diet, obviously, because I have gestational diabetes, but it does really help. So anytime that heartburn kicks up, I get some diet ginger ale, and it's been really helpful. So if you're suffering from heartburn in your pregnancy, maybe try some ginger ale. It's really worked for me, so I'm pretty grateful that I've come across that. I'm getting some swollen feet. My feet are definitely puffing up these days, and otherwise I got my womb wrap, which is supposed to help with the round ligament pain. I wore it the other day while I was cleaning, and I found that I was able to like clean for an hour fully without a lot of back pain or a lot of round ligament pain, which I don't think I would have been able to do if I didn't have it on. So that was pretty cool and hopeful, but I still have to test it more with my walking and stuff like that, because that's usually when it starts to flare up, the pain. And the wrap will also go into something I can use as a sling or a baby wearing wrap once he's born, so I'm really excited about that. Oh, some coworkers of mine threw me a surprise baby shower this last week. It was so sweet and thoughtful and so unexpected. I had no idea. I was so surprised. It was just a handful of girls. from my work who surprised me, and we met outside this really beautiful place where we live, and they had a fire going, and yeah, and they had a bunch of presents for me, and we just sat and chatted for 2.5 hours outside. It was amazing. It was just my kind of baby shower. I'm a pretty low maintenance girl, and I didn't have a baby registry. I didn't plan a baby shower. Obviously COVID plays a role in that, but also just not something that I did, or I was planning on doing. So I was so shocked by their effort and their planning of this and putting together of it, and it was so sweet and thoughtful, and I cried when I showed up. It was a really fun surprise, so I appreciate you girls so much for doing that for me, so thank you guys. That was fun, and just getting ready. We're getting ready. We're getting so close, and I'm excited. I'm just patiently, waiting for that time when the moment arises where it's time to give birth. So hopefully with me finishing up my working this week and being on mat leave after that, I have, high intentions and high hopes of getting back to more weekly video updates for you guys, and to put a little more content out in the final stages of this pregnancy. So we'll see how that goes. No promises though, because like I said, I've been pretty tired, so I'll see what I can do. And so before I go, I'll show you the bump at 34 weeks so you can see how big I have gotten. Check it out. This is what 34 weeks looks like. No stretch marks yet. Very itchy belly though. Yeah, I guess that's it for this week. Thanks for watching and walking with, and we'll see you guys next time.